tries to mug you? What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Good?
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jack for the cops in riot gear, gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. You got a riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You got a riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday. We are live. This is PrimerTime on UCY.tv. My name is Michael, and I've not taken part in any protests yet. Yeah.
I'm Nicholas, and I'm gainfully employed, so I don't have to either.
What's going on, man?
Oh, it's another wonderful day in the gun-loving neighborhood, as Mr. Rogers would say.
Absolutely. What's going on in your sector? Last week we kind of had like somewhat of a truncated show because of technical difficulties and blah blah blah. But you got a little bit of a chance to go to a gun show, and honestly it's the first one you've been to in a long time. So
Yeah,
I don't feel you got a chance to adequately explain, and I didn't get a chance to adequately ask you like the important questions of this gun show.
Yeah, well, the thing that I saw in it was that, aside from, the individuals walking around perusing guns and the lack of muzzle and trigger discipline, it was just nice to get around, tables of ammunitions and guns that, I hadn't been able to do when I was living overseas.
Now, when it was the last one you had been to before this, was that like one that I'd went with you to?
No, so I actually did go to a couple in Germany.
And okay, so give us the apparent differences and readily available differences between an American gun show and the one in Germany, because I'd like to see that.
So, put it this way, I've been to a couple. One was very large scale, and I will drop the link in chat so that way our listeners can go ahead and kind of see what I'm talking about. And it's called the Jagd und Hund Mess, and basically what that translates to is hunting and dogs. And the interesting thing is it takes the entire Dortmund Convention Center, and Dortmund is a major city in Western Germany, and
it's a fairly modern city because it had to be
it's all been rebuilt.
It's
all been rebuilt. So the cool thing is that you've got every major producer of optic, night vision, ammunition, clothing, weapons, knives. Accessories.
Is this a consumer show or is this more of a trade show?
Oh, no. This is consumer. They are marketing wares for people to buy.
Wow. Okay. So So there's more of the actual manufacturer's representatives versus, Bud who picked up,
Yeah, there is
all the
no.
crap together and spent the $65 on the table.
Yeah, you're not going to see one each. Small scale. Hey, I got just enough to get the table and brought a couple guns from home. That's not what you're going to see. You are going to see everything from, oh gosh, Barber, who makes clothes, hunting clothes in the European style. They set up stuff. We're talking travel agents who specialize in hunting vacations to Africa for the Big Five. The Big Five game animals of the African continent. They've got demonstrations of LandRovers, and Land Rover is the preferred European 4x4, and they have complete with a like an automotive hall that is set up with just climbing demonstrations that they can do, everything. It's amazing.
So
And
it's more of a spectacle. When was the last American gun show you'd been to before this last one you went to?
it would have to be before he joined the army, so we're talking over 22 years ago.
So it would have been one in Arizona then.
Oh
And
yeah,
me and
yeah.
you.
I think the one we went to was at the Pima County, Convention Center, Fairgrounds, Hair
So,
Care Center,
so if you
and
compare and contrast the two, because honestly, the American Gun Show hasn't changed much other than the fact that, from that time period, other than the fact that the prices have skyrocketed dramatically. There's far fewer private dealers, and there's more like Tupperware and like cell phone shit, stuff that's not exactly gun stuff. And by gun, I mean holsters or knives or, you know, even tasers.
right.
But
So
but I mean, like, when somebody got like, a whole thing of like jewelry.
yeah, and
And
well,
it's
and
not
that's
it's
one of
not
the
like
that's
gold
one of the
silver.
things.
It's not like
So
prepper
you will
jewelry.
see. Yeah, no, it's not like that. I mean, we're talking very high end hunting specific jewelry. And in Europe, hunting is a tradition that stretches back to the Middle Ages for,
Right. It's
commerce.
completely different than in the United States, where you can go out, and if you live out in the holler, you can, get yourself an SKS, or what used to be, get yourself an SKS for, $200, and go out and you got yourself a deer rifle, and, away. Now it's not that way in Germany, as you've spoken to
No,
many
absolutely not.
times, with the hunting regulations and the licensing and the fees and the just the whole goddamn paperwork of it over there. They really like taking it out of the people's hands,
Yeah,
or
and
attempt.
and it's a profession that's not designed for everybody to be able to participate in. It is a labor. I mean, it is not. It's not just a hobby like it is in the United States.
Yeah,
It
I
is a
found it interesting that
profession.
you referred to it as a profession and not a hobby.
Yeah,
As it is here.
yeah. Because I mean, hunters in Germany are responsible for care and maintenance of the forests as the forests sustain life. And
Hunters in the United States are responsible for taxes,
yeah, pretty much funding every bit of conservation, and it's the same
taxes
in
and taxes and tickets. That's your job.
yeah. So I mean, and that's the same to an extent over there. But one of the things that I actually let people know is that, hey, when it comes down to the Green Party, the people with the environmental bent, hunters were the first ones because we actually
Uh,
invested
oh,
our time.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we
But
invested
that's
our time in the
that's
forest.
real environmentalism. That's not the
That's not
perverted
the
word.
religion of environmentalism.
Right. Well, and that's exactly what it is. It's a cult, and I mean, we've had the discussion about global warming, amongst ourselves, and to be honest with you, yeah, there is global warming because there's weather. I swear to God, Trump is going to cure the temperature deficit by July.
Yeah. Well,
You
I mean,
know,
sounds good to me. I prefer
but I mean,
I
but
prefer the
we
fall
we
time colors to the summer colors.
but what I'm saying is we both are fully aware that the global warming as it's presented to us is a scam, and that kind of like falls into that green religion, which is just a green is the new red.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's the thing is, the socialists among us will go ahead and tell you that you can't have your religion because the new religion is the environment.
Right, right. 4 out of 5 dentists agree.
Yep. So yeah,
Man in the white
yeah,
coat is the expert. The expert is the new priest of the new church, and the new church is science. And
right.
honestly,
And it can't be argued with.
Every Walgreens out there is like a gift shop and donation center to the science, and the great big temples are the hospitals that do nothing but cancer care and things like that. That's, you know, if they were curing it, they wouldn't need all that shit. You know,
Yeah. Well, like I
I
said, if
I
you
got
get a
problems
chance in chat, I went ahead and dropped a couple of those links in there for you, so you can take a look and see what it is that these.
okay, so let me get to asking you some question about these fine German gun shows, which are completely different, just on the surface from American gun shows. What's the admission fee to one of these?
So let me go ahead and let me take a look. I'm actually at the page. Excuse me.
And do these? How often do these occur?
So these are annual events. These
So
happen every
once
year.
a year. Once a
Yeah.
year.
And,
Okay.
and we're talking they bring in exhibitors and vendors from all over the world. I mean,
All right.
I've purchased hunting gear from France, leather goods from Poland. Um, just even picked up a couple leather ammunition wallets that were made with Corinthian leather.
That is awesome. That must have come from the Fantasy Island distributor.
It did. It did. So just put it this way: at the Dortmund exhibition, they have 3 convention halls. I mean, these are thousands of square feet. You convert that to
Bigger
meters and
than a
whatnot.
Walmart. Bigger than a Walmart.
Oh, definitely. Complete with like falconry displays where they actually go ahead and let the falcons up and fly around inside the convention hall. Um, it seems kind of weird, but when you think of like Germany,
I'll
people.
say I would rather have falcons flying than that dude with the taser like shocking it every like 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, that doesn't sound very good.
Did you guys have
So
it at the last American show that you went to? This one you went to like a week ago. Did they have a taser display guy who had like a variety of tasers and probably some like ninja knives and some throwing stars and some
no, we
great big.
didn't have any. I mean, this last one that I went to was strictly, for the most part, guns. I mean, there was a couple people that were selling knives specifically, but no, mostly it was all
But
guns.
nobody had their garage crap. No drills or like tools or cell phone covers or
Oh no, I hadn't
stuff
seen
that's
any of that.
either like a gun flashlight or like a home defense flashlight or guy stuff or no, not somebody with a section full of t-shirts with with the wolf howling at the moon, something like
Yeah,
that.
no, and that's the thing. This is the premier hunting and fishing exhibition in Europe. So, just some of the things that you'll put in there. This is what comes from the actual, business themselves. They tell you right off they are the largest hunting exhibition for the Dortmund exhibit. The IWA event that's held in Munich is actually one that's more geared towards industry, and you have to be invited to that one. So there's a difference even between the two. Whereas the one that's in Western Germany is for not only sellers but for people who are consumers. The IWA is more of the industry one to say, hey, this is what is going to go out on the market, and this is why you should carry our wares.
That's pretty neat to go and see that. Now, most American gun shows are aimed towards the consumer. The big industry and trade gun shows are usually held either in Las Vegas or along the East Coast. And there's only maybe 10 at the most of those. And it's different outdoor sportsmen. And the level of firearms involvement varies between them. But, at the consumer oriented gun shows that happen every week in multiple in cities sometimes. Uh, we see a different a different sort of atmosphere and definitely a different product range and a different target audience and target market. What kind of beef jerky do they have at this German gun show? That's the
So
important question.
you would be surprised. They don't they don't do beef jerky. They do wild game jerky. We're talking mouflon. We're talking chamois. We're talking, all these interesting European species: roe deer, red deer, fallow deer. Um, if you can think of it, they'll make it. And but best of all is the wild boar sausage. The wild boar. They call it Landjäger sausage, and basically what it is it's a subtly smoked, wild boar sausage that's dried and doesn't have a ton of nitrates on it. So you're getting, the flavor of the meat without the salt.
That's actually really cool that they have, natural and wild game jerky like that. I've noticed that probably in the last couple years, at the shows that I've been to in the southern United States and mostly in Texas, there's been a push towards like alligator jerky and there's been wild boar jerky. But wild boar jerky in Texas is interesting and sort of difficult. It's usually not sold because it's not necessarily legal to sell pig meat in the state of Texas. There's only like two places you can do it, and it's really kind of like 60 cents a pound or something. You don't make any money on it, and
Yeah, see,
it's a different culture than it is in Europe regarding like the harvest and the economics of the meat. Here, it's almost a rodent. It's almost a pest.
yeah,
It's vermin.
yeah,
Nearly.
definitely, definitely.
Uh,
I wish I wouldn't have had such a hard time connecting last week, because we could have talked about this a little bit more in detail. The Dortmund event actually just happened this past week. So as I was having trouble connecting through Skype, the exhibition was going on, and just some facts on it. They've got 80,000 visitors and 800 exhibitors from 38 nations.
and how many
That
days is this thing?
this goes for from the 30th of January to the 4th of February. So you're looking at 6 days.
That's pretty good. That's a good long time to you get a chance to go and see the whole thing. I would assume that a pass is good for the entire duration of the show, or you could buy like a daily pass.
It's a daily pass.
Is it
Daily
okay?
pass. Yeah, and
Uh,
we're talking that it's, like I said, to get back to the amenities that are there, full on beer gardens. We're talking premium European beers that are sold at the convention. Complete hall dedicated to culinary delights.
Culinary delights. Mm.
Yeah, cooking demonstrations. Famous Europeans who are in the culinary arts that cook specifically with wild game will come out there and show you how to do what they do at a restaurant and charge gross amounts of money for. I mean, for me, you said we were talking about the Land Rover exhibit. I spent probably a good 3 hours there sitting there watching this Land Rover go up and down this metal ladder. And I'm sitting there thinking, there's no way this thing is going to do it. And sure enough, it did.
And that land, you and I have had the Land Rover discussion before, and in the United States, Land Rovers are an interesting beast. They have a certain amount of panache to them, and yet there's a wide range of them. And there's mythical legends about their abilities and their capabilities off road and in harsh conditions. But that kind of varies between models, and all the ones that are like everything the legend is built on are either totally unavailable or they're like, shit, they're $110,000 and they're already like 12 years old. You know,
Yeah,
like I mean,
definitely.
like a Discovery is a cool truck. Like the Disco and the Disco 2, those are good little stout little trucks. But you start running into problems with a Land Rover, and Christ Almighty, it'll bankrupt you, man. Like
Well, and
stupid things
that's the
like
thing.
the
Like
like
any other
radiator
British vehicle.
overflow, like the radiator overflow thing, for a Discovery. Man, that thing costs like $450 if you can find one. I mean, and you're gonna take the risk of spending like 275 on one that's used. Nah, shit, man. It'll end up having the exact same problem because mine look. Clarification: I am a former Discovery owner, and yeah, I mean it was a great truck. I mean the thing was a tractor, but once you got to start like replacing parts on that thing, fuck, man, you better have a really good job.
Well, and that's the thing, you know. So a lot of the older hunters over there have the Defender 110s, and to me, the Defender 110s are the absolute perfect hunting vehicle, especially if you take the extra time to make sure you get a a rhino
Have you
lining
have
on
you
the
looked up
inside.
Have you looked up what a Defender 110 or even a Defender 90 costs in the United States right now?
Oh, in the United States, it's out of control. But I am going to go ahead and drop a uh, a sticky linky in chat for 4x4farm.de, and that is a reseller of just used four-wheel drive Land Rovers and Mitsubishis. Take a look at the prices on these. They
Uh,
are
You know,
out of control.
I I have a soft spot in my heart for like Japanese SUVs. I grew up in the era where American cars were like in a decline, and the Japanese vehicles were, you know, economically affordable and quality build vehicles. And so I've got a soft spot for the Japanese vehicles, and I'll tell you what, things like Mitsubishi that they make and sell all over like Asia and South America and Europe and uh, the subcontinent and whatever. Oh man, I wish we could get some of those here. But Mitsubishi's like a dying brand in the United States. The
Yeah,
Mitsubishi
see,
Pajero
so
is a neat truck.
yeah, so the Pajero you're talking about.
Yeah, well, Pajero I think is what it is. Like if you're gonna say it right,
No, no,
it's
no, no.
Spanish
They have an
for.
E. They have an E where in Spanish it's an A. Over there it's a Mitsubishi Pajero.
Oh well, I've always heard of it as maybe I don't read.
It's quite possible. But I just dropped a link in chat for folks, and yeah, these are for 60,000. You can 60,000 euro. You can pick up the 110 model station wagon camper with 90 90,000. Was it 90 kilowatts? So 122 horsepower. Um, yeah,
Dude, 122 horsepower. That is like a tractor. That thing will probably like top out at like 70 on the highway and like sound like it's
oh,
gonna explode.
definitely.
And all the while getting like 4 miles per gallon because my Discovery had a 4 liter V8 in it, and it was a Ford based 4 liter V8. A lot of the parts swapped out with Ford. If you
Well,
knew if you
so
knew,
so yeah.
but
Um,
man, that thing drank gas like I would use like a tank to go like a full tank of that thing, and I think it had a like a 21 or a 23 gallon tank or something on it, and I would use an entire tank to go like from here to like Houston and back. Like I'd have to fill up before coming back.
yeah. Well, so I just dropped a link in chat for a couple of the Land Rovers. The one that I just dropped in, it's a gray Defender 110. If anybody's willing to sponsor Primer Time, that's exactly what I'm going to do with the money.
Like the Great Defender or the one with the little camper thingy on it? Because
No,
that
no,
one
no,
with the
the
little
one
camper thingy on it.
the one there at the bottom.
Yeah, that's pretty nifty.
Yeah, it's got the little
Yeah,
snorkel exhaust on it and everything.
yeah,
That
that's
is what
pretty
I want.
nifty.
So the funny thing about British automotive technology, right?
Oh well, their electronics suck.
Well, not only their electronics suck, but you're only okay as long as you're leaking some kind of fluid.
Right, because it would build up otherwise, and
Well,
the
no,
vehicle start to
if you
swell.
stop leaking fluid, you are out of fluid.
Well, yeah, that too.
That's,
um,
that's the only way you know what's up.
yeah, I'm not necessarily. I mean, if I could come across like another like Discovery or even a Disco 2 for like $1,500 that, maybe $2,000 that ran fairly good and didn't have like, maybe over 120,000 miles on it, I'd consider it. But shit, man, you got to like seriously look at something like that because you are going to be putting some money into that. A Land Rover is not it's not a consumer friendly vehicle, especially like on the low end used. I think
Oh no,
they're
no,
kind
no.
of priced. I think they're kind of pricey, kind of maintenance intensive. So and I'm not at that point in my life anymore. Like I don't mind getting something and then okay, well it needs like an alternator or something like that. Let's throw an alternator on it, and boom, you got yourself a steal. But I don't want to have to rebuild this thing like every fucking 4 months. Really, like I don't want to have to put in like $1,500 into this thing like every 4 months. That was the whole point of getting a $1,500 truck. You know?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. So you're not gonna find any of the discos or I'm sorry, the Defenders for under 30K. And we're talking
No,
euros here. So
well, euros is one thing. I mean, look them up in the United States, man. I doubt you can find one for less than 50 grand in the United States.
well, not only that, they weren't allowed to be imported into the United States for quite a while because of the decision of Land Rover not to include airbags. So they were unsafe to drive on American roads after 1991.
Well, yeah, because they top speed was like 58 miles an hour.
But trust me, dude, I've lived in Arizona. I've driven behind many people who cannot drive more than 58 miles an hour, and they all have Michigan plates.
Yeah. That's the joy of the snowbird. Yeah. Well, those are kind of interesting. I'll tell you what. We don't see vehicle shows or vehicle displays at American gun shows quite often, unless it's like a bigger show in a larger city, and they will have usually one of the associated dealers will have a display, and they'll bust out a couple nice trucks and a Mustang or a Camaro or something like that, and that's nice, but it's not necessarily a part of the gun show. It's like an adjunct and maybe something for like the rowdy teenage kid who got drug in there by his dad who doesn't really give a shit about guns. It gives him a place to like go and look at something, but I've never seen anybody actually buy a car at a gun show.
Oh, so they do here, and that's one of the things you got to remember is that a lot of people in Germany will buy the high end equipment just for the sheer fact that it's very much a status symbol. So
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, like seriously, okay. So if we're gonna be like discussing vehicles, you look at something like the Land Rover, and that's great. I mean, like seriously, it could be a work truck. It's when they're running right, they're more than capable off road. Depending. I wouldn't like take a mud bogging or anything, but it'll get across the field. It'll get it'll get through some fairly sticky stuff that might stick a Chevy, but you have to learn how to operate one of them things within its parameters, and then it does fairly well. I mean, seriously, it is like a tractor, but
no, I mean the British used it for the SAS and the Desert Rats,
well,
so
okay. Now we have to also keep saying there's a difference between the Discovery and then like all the other ones that are smaller SUV looking things, and the Defender. The Defender is the one that looks like a Jeep. It's the classic, Rat Patrol sort of fighting the Nazis in the desert sort of a thing, and that's out of the price range, man. One of them things is like 70 grand in the United States.
yeah. But I mean, think about it.
So
That's a good 70 grand you're spending.
When people talk about Land Rovers in the United States, they usually refer to like the Discoveries and then whatever come after the Discoveries. And then you look at Range Rover, which is just like a fancied up Land Rover, right? It's like a Land Rover with leather and bling. And there's a lot of those out there too, dude. I don't see how people buy those. I really don't. I don't. Other than the I have a Range Rover. You know,
Well, I mean,
I
you're always going to get those, right?
I think that's the majority of it.
Yeah. Well,
They
and
don't.
these are the same people that are going to go out and spend, you know, thousands of dollars on a Merkel shotgun with, totally engraved silver, side plates, or the Blaser R8 Professional Success, which has a thumb hole stock holster that's embroidered with leather.
Oh, I'll tell you what. You sent me a video on the Blazer R8, and I don't remember who it was that did it, and it was very lighthearted and nearly farcical in its presentation,
Yeah.
but it was well made and it presented a valid point. And as we've been discussing, Land Rovers and Land Cruisers, or not Land Cruisers because that's a Toyota product, but Land Rovers and their various availabilities and pricing and well, you could probably get the same exact thing out of a Toyota, in all honesty, at a much lower price. There is, like you said, the cachet, and then the I guess built-in you know satisfaction that you've got. You have a Land Rover, you have a Blazer, and I think there is something to that because I mean honestly, like, and I mean I'm not necessarily a gun snob. I like what I like, and of course what I like is the best, right? But it's not
Well,
necessarily
don't we
expensive.
all? I mean, I've got I've got champagne dreams and a Boone's Farm budget.
Dude, I'm telling you, the Boone's Farm is. I I I don't know, man. I don't miss the Boone's Farm days. I'll be straight up honest. But yeah, but I mean, like, there's certain things I like, and I'm lucky that they're kind of like older dying things, and I don't necessarily have a Jones for anything that's brand new because it's kind of like a rehashed version of something else, and there's not a whole lot of real innovation, but yeah, I mean, I can see, having I have a Blazer R8. It has a straight pull action. If you've never fired a straight pull action rifle, it's completely different. And
Oh, but
yeah,
but once
it's
you have,
really
but once you
it's
have,
right. It's really nice. It's like, okay, so you've driven, the new SLK 12 cylinder Mercedes with, the human leather, the human skin seats, that are ultra plush and whatever. And now you have
with
to drive home like,
upholstery sewn together by Hugo Boss.
right, right,
Very,
and now
very, very snappy leather in silver and gray.
it's beautiful stuff. I'm telling you, it's a sharp car. But then you have to do that, and then like you got to go back and yeah, I gotta go get in my Mazda, you know.
Yeah.
It's so yeah. There's that factor, and some people don't want to necessarily take that on. Some people don't necessarily want to put the down payment for a house into a rifle, but what the hell?
Yeah. Well, speaking of firearms, alluded last week to coming into a muzzle loader,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Your black powder freebie.
yeah, definitely, and it's a freebie, and the best thing, of course, being free, is that I'm not paying any kind of price at all, but this is something that I'm going to get. I've physically have shot the individual firearm before, and I know that it works.
See
So
that's a real comforting scenario right there because I mean, well, it's always cool to get a free firearm, but it's even better when you know that firearm works.
right, right. So the interesting thing is that I have a couple of individual friends that are very well versed in hunting with muzzle loaders, and they are definitely interested in taking me out there and trying the different powders and the different powder combinations. And one of the things that we got to talking to was, what is the best powder? Because when you break it down for folks that really don't know anything about what a muzzle loader is, it's basically going back in time to early early colonial American history, before the actual centerfire cartridge was developed with a self-contained, powder charge and a primer and a projectile. This breaks it down into the basic rudimentary steps of having a separate primer, a separate propellant charge, a separate projectile, and no casing. So whether you use a patch and a ball, or you use a discarding sabot with your bullet, it's just 4 steps that are broken down into each individual step instead of having the centerfire cartridge that does everything for you.
Now, we also have to say that there's many different kinds when you get into the black powder world. That we can actually go back to the actual ignition system of like the flintlock or even a matchlock. Those are available out there. And to the modern day, which are, some of these are ignited by a 209 primer, which is just a regular shotgun primer, which, you could buy 5,000 of them things for like $100.
Right, and so I've gone ahead and I've dropped a picture in chat for our chatting audience, to give you an idea of what this looks like. It's a bolt action muzzle loader.
We should just actually say that if you do wish to go to chat, it's at www.ucy.tv, and then there's a navigation bar there that will take you to the chat room. And you can join us in chat and see what we're saying and meet a bunch of really cool people that are in there, and all kind of like-minded. It's not necessarily an echo chamber, but there's a bunch of cool stuff said in there, and there's some really cool people, and lots of good information. So www.ucy.tv. Head to the navigation bar and look for the chat page.
Yep. So there we go. Now that we got that shameless plug out of the way.
Yeah, whatever. Tonight is also brought to you by Miller Lite and the letter X.
There you go. So we have, this is what's considered to be an inline muzzleloader. There's no flash.
The ignition system for this uses a commercially available primer, or is this?
Yeah, this is a 209 primer.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah. So
now we were kind of discussing that. People may think of black powder it's an actual powder that you pour into the barrel, and then you stamp it down, and then you put in a patch, and then the ball, and kind of Mel Gibson, the Patriot style. But this one has the option of taking what are known as Pyrodex pellets, which is I believe it's a triple F powder that's been compressed into a predetermined load. And
right. It's set up into 50 grain increments. So most muzzleloader formulas for accuracy start out at getting about 70 grains of whatever your choice of powder, because there's different powders out there. So there's commonly you're going to have people that use buckhorn or something like that. There's
there's a great difference between smokeless powders and black powder. And within black powder, there's several different ratings for that black powder, and within those ratings, there's different manufacturers with different blends that fit within that rating category.
Right, and basically, what I think when you take a look at it and you say what is a modern muzzle loader as compared to a rifle, literally it is just taking apart the components of a modern cartridge and breaking it down to be loaded individually, because with the chamber pressures that these powders are creating, and the speed and the terminal velocity that these projectiles are hitting, you're getting the value of the chamber pressure that can be generated in most modern firearms, and you're getting very close to a good amount of range out of it too. So what people like muzzle loaders for is typically gives them 2 weeks of a head start on folks that have just center fire rifle or shotgun hunting licenses in their state or jurisdiction. Some people that I know really prefer that, muzzle loaders or what they call primitive weapons weren't to be allowed because they're not as reliable. And I can speak to that in some regard, having shot a deer with it and shot it in the neck and it dropped immediately, and then having dropped a different deer above, just above the crease of the shoulder, and it ran for 2 miles. So, is it perfect? No, absolutely not. Will it kill a deer? Yes, absolutely. And
And it
you're
adds
thinking,
to the challenge, and it gives you that boost of, well, playing out straight out testosterone and the rush of adrenaline that comes with it, knowing that you killed something that you will eat, you will enjoy, you will share with others, and you did it the way, our nation's forefathers did it.
oh, certainly, and not only that, I can tell you, I took part in the fruits of my labor, having just grilled some venison loins, and it was absolutely delicious. Absolutely
That's cool.
no shame in my game when it comes to shooting, quadrupedal animals.
That's cool. We were talking about your German gun show versus the American gun show, and you had said that at the German gun show there was, a culinary display, quote
Yeah,
unquote,
certainly.
which is not a hot dog stand.
No, 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 no. We're talking
What was the,
restaurants. Restaurants come in there and serve food.
what was the food like at the American gun show you went to
There was no
just
food.
recently?
Yeah, there
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 was.
was no food. This was at
Okay.
the Augusta County, Virginia Convention Center and tractor pull, proving grounds.
Long John's Racerama. All
Yeah.
right, so I've been to shows very similar to that. I'm probably going to actually end up working at a show like that maybe in about a week's time, 2 weeks' time. I can't remember which weekend it is. It's a weekend coming up, but there will be a concession usually at the shows that are just a hair bit bigger than what I'm guessing the show I'm going to is maybe just either comparable to yours or just a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger. It's real close. Um,
Yeah,
usually
mine
there will
mine was
be
a C&E gun show.
usually there will be some sort of concession stand that's run by usually it's run by the facility that puts it on. It's rarely the actual company that does the concession for the show. Like sells any kind of food. They just don't. I don't think they want to have that hassle. Um, if they do, it's maybe it's like hot dogs or something like that. But at the bigger American shows, I found like even at something big like at the SHOT Show or at the uh, let's say like the one at the Reliance Center in Houston, which that's the Houston Collectors Show. That's a massive show. That's a really big one. And even when they know that it's going to be a big show due to like whatever political events or anything they're going, they don't seem to put any kind of like effort into the food. It's always like the equivalent of like gas station hamburgers and stuff like that at $9 a piece or something. And $3 for a can of Coke, kind of a deal.
Well, I mean,
I
you're
think
gonna spend a little bit more for things like that also in the European shows. But I'll tell you what, you can't buy beer the way you can buy beer at an American show the way you can do it over there.
yeah, no, there's no beer at an American show. Hey, looking through the chat, Maddie asked like an interesting question about EMP and how that fits in with the increasing reliance on robotics and the way that the technology is moving. And I will say that at the SHOT Show there was I can't remember the name. It might have been Line Art was the company, or maybe it was Lenco. I can't remember, but they had one of the mine resistant, armor piercing vehicles or armor resistant, personnel vehicles that was designed for police use in the United States, and it had all kinds of nifty little thingies on it. It was nuclear, chemical, biological proof, and it had, air filtration systems, and it had multiple, gun ports, and it could be fitted with, a grenade launcher or a machine gun, and it had a little onboard drone it could launch, and you could control it from inside the vehicle and have a big screen inside it. But something that they did have was a directional EMP weapon, and they actively were selling that as it could stop any car from, like, 1974 on, or I think it was 1974. And they could do that, and the other cars that were right next to them would keep going, but you could shut that one off. And I found that was kind of interesting, that that's something that's being marketed to the police department. And then, kind of going along with Maddie's question, well, there's hell, man, there's videos on YouTube on how to do it. It's not that if you've got a microwave, you've got the basis for doing that. A microwave and some, seriously, like flashing for like a tin roof, you could totally build something like that. I mean, no, that's not to say that you're not going to get any kind of radiation. And we here at PrimerTime do not endorse the building of electromagnetic pulse weapons or anything like that without, consulting a book and lead clothing and whatnot. But yeah, it's out there. That's a definite a definite avenue in the future. I mean, things are changing rapidly. I mean, they don't know how to handle like 3D printing, And
for those of you who are in our chatting audience, there is something called the active denial system, and you talk about EMP shutting down vehicles. This shuts down people. Basically,
now,
what you have
active denial is the human microwave. It is basically what that is.
It starts you feeling like you are cooking.
So it's basically acting like a microwave, right? It's like exciting the water.
It's a focused energy system.
That sounds unpleasant, like to the highest order.
Focused energy is not something I like to be associated with.
That so, and of course, systems like that the military has are hardened against, Joe Blow and his microwave, and like the leftover parts from the shed.
Right, yeah. I mean, if you get knee deep into this, trust me, you're going to have people coming and looking in after you.
Yeah, I've seen a few videos on this on YouTube, and I know that there's people who are actively marketing these as anti-drone devices. They're scrupulously not using the term weapon or firearm or anything. It's a device. But I'm not familiar with the legality or anything. Personally, ethically, I'm completely fine with that. Like, yeah, if you're going to use it for, stopping drones that your pervert neighbor is sending over your backyard and, like looking at your little girl or something, yeah, you shoot that son of a bitch down. I got no problem with that. If you're going to use an EMP or you're going to use a 12 gauge, you go right ahead. But like legally, yeah, no. And then if you're, I would also, not endorse the malicious use of EMPs. Like, don't be sitting on a highway overpass and shutting down, Buicks. That's a bad thing.
You're going to get in trouble for that.
So,
but with this active denial system, one of the applications that you can think of in terms of law enforcement is more towards the rehabilitative side in terms of correction facilities. We just had this event that happened in Delaware, with a prison riot and having one of the corrections officers lose his life. Think about if they would have used something like the active denial system that would have made everybody, feel like their skin was on fire. They would have stopped doing what they were doing in a heartbeat.
Right, but now active denial system that's kind of like a line of sight weapon. Is that correct? It doesn't necessarily work around a corner or anything.
No, but I mean, this is deployed somewhere where there's an expected, presence of people.
Everything I've seen with the active denial system shows that it's like usually mounted like on a big truck. Is there a smaller version of that that's like man?
Yeah. So when you talk to the all-knowing Wikipedia, Raytheon has developed a smaller version called the Silent Guardian, and that's basically
a wicked name.
Yeah, and it says that the range can be used to engage targets over 250 meters away. Um, yeah, that's he said it's one of the people who volunteered to experience it said that it was like touching a red hot wire, but there is no heat, only the sensation of heat. Well, that's pretty bad. I'm not going to want to touch anything when there's no heat around, especially if I'm just feeling heat with no heat being present.
Yeah, that's something that's probably also going to like operate on a primitive level, where you've got the painful stimuli, but there's the conflict
There's
with the
no
message within your brain that says there's no stimuli to avoid. That the
exactly.
only
Yeah.
option is to flee. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's some
that
wicked
speaks
stuff.
to the reptilian brain, and says this is a life or death situation. Go the other direction.
Primer time on UCY.TV, your home for reptilian brain discussion.
There we go. And speaking of reptilian brain discussion, one thing that we should talk about, which shouldn't revolve around anything but your reptilian brain, is the need to talk about the 4 rules of firearm safety.
All right, listen up, you reptoids and shapeshifters out there. The first rule of firearm safety is uh, every
you,
firearm is loaded until you
you got
physically.
all fuckered up on reptoids.
I did. I was thinking of the lizard man.
I know. I was thinking of V there for a second.
That's right. I had a crappy dinner, so don't get me all like started on hamsters and
Uh,
spoiled milk.
yeah,
But
there
all
you
right,
go.
first rule of firearm safety is every firearm is loaded until you physically and visually inspect and ensure that firearm is not loaded. Rule number two is keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction at all times. Do not point the muzzle at anything you do not wish to destroy. Rule number three is know what the target is, know what's beyond the target at all times. And rule number four, the most important rule is keep the booger hook, the scaly lizard finger booger hook, off the bang switch until you're ready to discharge a weapon.
There you go. And one of the other interesting things is that from the German gun show perspective, there were no negligent discharges in the times that I ever observed them.
I've never been to a gun show that's had a negligent discharge. I've been to a gun show that's had a bunch of jackasses and violating the booger hook and the covering people with weapons and check this out, Ma, it's got a laser, and then they point the gun like right at Ma's forehead or at some little kid or for fuck's sake me, there's that, but I've never been around a negligent discharge.
Yeah. Well,
I
that's
mean,
good.
having
I have been,
I've
and
been at a negligent discharge, in other situations, but never at a gun show.
yeah, I have been, and actually having been deployed when it happened, and I can tell you that individual was doing extra duty.
Okay, so you had a negligent discharge while you were on duty,
Yeah, I
or
actually
not,
was
you,
getting ready
but
to getting ready to head out on a combat patrol, and when you get ready to leave a FOB or a forward operating base, you have to test fire your weapon systems. So we all have crew served weapons, with the machine guns, if you will, that are mounted up on top of our vehicles. And one of the gunners in our convoy, instead of shooting into the berm, which is controlled by it's a barrier that creates a tunnel, and you shoot into X number of feet of dirt and sand to test fire your weapon. He shot above the berm, and he was shooting a 50 caliber machine gun. So 2 miles down the road somewhere, that bullet landed. Round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows.
yeah, but it's in Iraq, so what the hell?
Yeah, no,
Jesus
I mean
Christ!
back then that was 2006. It was the Wild West. If somebody
That's
got
crazy.
shot with an American bullet, they had it coming.
You're gonna make me bust out the Lee Greenwood CD.
Oh no, don't do that. I hate that song.
Dude, I
Absolutely,
totally hate that
absolutely hate that
song,
song.
man.
Oh
That song,
Jesus.
to me, that song like
For
everything.
those of you who don't have a member of the military, and if you were ever thinking of a reason not to have them join, it's because that poor soul, when they get ready to graduate from basic training, is going to be forced to walk X number of miles from their barracks to the graduation location, and they will be forced to sing that song. literally you
Like
don't
the
want to do
whole,
that to
so
a bumper.
you actually know the lyrics to that whole song? I mean, not that there's
You
like
have to.
deviation in it or anything.
It's horrible.
That's bad. Well, hey, in today's military with it's completely inclusive stand. At least it's not that Rick Astley song you're gonna have to sing when you graduate.
Never give you'd actually know that one because that was big when I was a kid.
Yeah, no kidding. I actually saw it in a commercial the other day.
Yeah. So hopefully next week I'll have a muzzle loader in my possession. I spoke to the individual who said that he was gonna go ahead and gift this to me, and he was out of the net today and yesterday. So hopefully within the next couple of days he'll bring it, or I'll stop by his house and pick it up, and we'll go from there.
That's kind of cool. I'll tell you what. There's really not a lot out there that catch my eye. I'm pretty much stuck with I like single action 9 millimeters, and I like them to be thin. Outside of a Glock, just because they're ubiquitous. There's nothing that grabs me out there. But I'll tell you what. Today I did see a Palmetto State 9 millimeter AR pistol. So it's an AR-15 that does not have a stock on it, and it's got oh man, just by looking at the pictures, you've got a 7.5 or a 10-inch barrel on it, and it operates in a different manner than a gas-operated AR-15, and this guy I talked to, he wants what I consider to be a fairly reasonable price for it. It's a little bit of a drive, but it's a fairly reasonable price. But I've got a concern because it's built on an Anderson lower that's got a standard 5.56 223 AR-15 trigger and hammer, and everything I've read says that it's got to have a 9 millimeter hammer. They make a special hammer and a special buffer tube that's built for the 9 millimeter. And as we discussed earlier, it'd probably be about $100 extra to swap out those parts. A good round.
Yeah, and looking for them, I didn't find anything specific to that, so there might be a availability issue.
So I'm almost hesitant on it. I really like the idea of a 9 millimeter AR-15. I've shot a few of them, and boy, I really like them.
Why don't you just find an MP5 and 9 millimeter?
Because an MP5 and 9 millimeter is $3,500.
That's $3,500 well spent.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not spending it that well. I'm sorry. The only other option is a lower from quarter circle 10 that takes MP5 magazines, or one of the Turkish copies from ZQI, and I don't know if I haven't seen those out anyway. I think they're called Zenith, and the Zenith MK, and MK is just basically their conversion for the letter H, because it's all a copy of every HK item.
Wow.
But man, those are $2,500.
Yeah. Well, it's all money, right? It's got to get spent.
Yeah. Think about the economy and all that.
Yeah. Well, we're getting ready to come up on the bumper music. So, Michael, it's been great chatting with you. Got to give a shout out to our listeners in chat. And Jules, thank you.
I'll tell you what, Jules puts out some seriously hard work for this, and I can't thank her enough for the platform to give us a chance to rant every week. So everybody, if you got a few bucks, throw them Jules' way. She'll put it to good use. Stick around. There's plenty of good programming here on UCY. Anti-Media Radio is up next. A couple guys from the South. They got a pretty good group.